Hey guys, welcome back to the VFX Nomads podcast. First of all, Adrian, you seem like you're in a new place. I missed those blue lights above your head. Where are you now?
I'm in a new place. I'm new apartment. The one that I was renovating for almost a year. It's still work in progress. Actually a work in progress. Like I'm still missing the doors and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool for the rest. It has I'm not sure if you can see it, some mountain. So yeah, it's getting there.
What was the biggest challenge, Adrian?
Getting into something new that is not my expertise and that I don't have a chance of iterating over. Like that's the biggest challenge.
Do it once.
You get like one try at most things, and once you do it, like you wasted all your money. So
yes.
It's really important to visualize things and.
So the planning and seeing it through, huh?
And Blender is a very, very useful tool.
Really?
So you rendered your apartment, is it?
Yes.
Did you mid-journey it? Did you use any AI image generation? Have you got some weird hallucination cabinets like halfway on your wall that you just matched to?
I did everything I could think of, man. So stressing.
You put a VR set on the real estate agent and said, "This is what I want."
He made the construction workers use VR sets to visualize what they were doing.
Oh man, but it's so complex, man. Like even the color of the paint and everything, you have to figure out ways to see how it will look, and then at some point there's like no return.
And Adrian, you did say before this as well, just to show everyone your priorities, that you don't have any doors in your toilet, but you do have a 77-inch TV, right?
That includes the front door.
Exactly.
You can watch TV.
77-inch TV that I can ask Siri to turn on. That's number one. And
amazing.
Number two, doors and stuff.
What else can you voice control?
I can do it's Spanish, sorry, but Siri baja las persianas del office.
Oh my god. His chair's going to shoot up in the air and he's going to go into a different room.
You'll see.
Nice. The blind's going down. Oh
wait.
God.
There you go.
The lighting changing?
Very cool.
So basically, you have that house from Ex-Machina, basically, the one that's like really fancy in the woods or whatever.
I wish someday, man. But it's like such a challenge to I want to have all the fancy automation stuff like that, but at the same time I want to be natural materials, low EMF, so it's quite contradictory. And that's why I went for Thread and Zigbee, which are very, very low power networks.
That is kind of interesting. If I can touch on that, you're a technology guy, but also you're a nature guy. You're quite a bit of both. How do you balance that? You want all the tech in your house, but also I could imagine you as I also want to live in a cabin in the middle of the woods with nothing, with logs.
Yeah, the way I went, what I decided to do is purchase a small apartment, pretty small and pretty old, but next to a mountain. So that's number one. I get the fresh air, I get all the sunlight, I get I'm literally 1 meter away from the mountain, and then I chose very natural materials. All my wood flooring is actual oak and stuff like that. Stone, low emission materials in general. But at the same time, then it's all a contrast. You guys know what I mean.
Load it with technology.
As far as power and electricity, how big is the team of hamsters that are running underneath your floor?
More than one, probably.
I mean, Adrian, actually, I remember being at DNEG and there was a guy who was doing up his house, and it was he was using his same compi, obviously, because it's hard for us to switch off. And he was looking at door handles, and he was it had to be perfect. And did you find that it was very hard to your attention to detail was maybe higher than what the people you hired had, if that makes sense?
Yes, and they are probably not used to I'm literally 8 or 10 hours a day just supervising things and asking for changes, and they are not really used to that. But at the same time, yeah,
you're making modifications in Blender and then showing them the updated renders.
Let's say there's things that we value more than the average person in terms of symmetry and colors and stuff like that, and construction work can really mess up those things unless you are on top of it. I've been here every single day for a year. It's
oh man, So you
Everything
pixel
goes wrong.
fucked the construction workers. Basically.
I don't blame you. I can relate in like designing a tattoo lately. I got like an initial had like a verbal discussion, and then I get like an initial design, and I'm sitting here I get the design, and I'm sitting here making like annotations and just like little boxes here and there. And I think after like the third revision, he was just like,
Come on, bro.
you gotta trust the artist. I'm like, all right, fine, I get it. Came out pretty sweet though.
Ooh, look at that.
Nice,
That's
man.
cool.
And you got Tony's face on your back, you said, right, as well?
Yeah,
Like-
on your ass cheek.
We weren't gonna talk about that.
Oh, shit. Sorry, man.
Don't show us.
I mean, speaking of new things, Tony, you've released a new video. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Long deal,
It's on his Tonely fans.
It's only, I've never heard that. Yeah, it was the completion of the CG compositing series that I set out to do. It only took me 4 years to do it. Thank you very much. No, it's for me it was a big milestone. So it was really cool. I was really stressing out about finishing it, and yeah, unlike the other videos, I could like Google and I could research things, and this one I had to just make everything like up from scratch because you couldn't Google that specific topic.
Yeah.
So that was like the unique part of it. Was like you have to invent imagery and language to talk about this topic, and you have to find the right example to kind of go to the like explain it to a layperson or just like somebody who's also a junior or a senior. And like if you can't explain it properly, then they won't believe you, or they won't like accept it or something like that. So you have to choose the words very carefully. So I went through a lot of revisions on that.
Your words are amazing on how you explain stuff, but there's only one thing that's even better, and it's your infographics, man.
You like the
So-
infographics?
So satisfying to watch, man.
Yeah, I spent some time on the pie one. That was like a revelation. That was like oh yeah, it's like a pie.
I mean, I remember you sending us the images and you were like trying to coax like ChatGPT, right, to kick you out an image that made sense, and it was just random.
Yeah.
Like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
like,
I was using some ChatGPT in some cases to like just generate like a base, and then I would take it into Nuke of all places, and I would like do some stuff.
Nice.
those ping pong balls.
Geez, watching the video as we speak. I mean, out of interest, like Tony, did it? Because obviously you had an idea in mind for the videos. I guess your knowledge has slowly grown while making the videos? I would imagine a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So was it interesting, kind of like, oh fuck, actually, like I'm now going to teach this now that I maybe wouldn't have before in this video?
I knew what I wanted to do, like the whole thing. I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't know how to say it, and I don't know what I'm going to say in every video until I start to make the video, and then I like discover whatever it is that I'm going to say. Yeah. So like that was the part that I was figuring out, and that was the part I was most nervous about. But yeah, the whole thing I knew like, oh, I want to teach people how to like rebuild the beauty render, and yeah, I just figured I couldn't just do it in one small video, just like, oh, here's an answer without explaining every part of it. It's the same as keying. It's exactly the same thing that happened in keying. Like, yes, I could just present a template, but then if you don't know how to use the individual parts of the template, it's useless. So you have to like, okay, here's a CG rebuild, but if you don't know how to use material AOVs, then, you know, what's the point of the CG rebuild?
Yeah.
So
if you can't match a black level, then why the hell are you messing around with the spec, right? It's like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess, you know, I've had some comments of people that were asking about like, you know, simpler, like subtractive methods. Of course, everyone knows that like it's a way to go about things. But the types of CG that I've had to deal with is usually I'm not doing one or two things. I'm doing a lot of things to them. So you need the most robust like rebuild ever, so that you can accomplish every single note and not just like, oh, I need to change the spec here. So that's kind of why I went with that approach. But there's this other. I mean, Josh, are you still used to using like subtractive method, like very small kind of changes and stuff, or do you tend to go towards these like templates now?
I do it your way. I do templates now most of the time. I generally, when I'm teaching, I teach subtractive because it's less intimidating. And it just means that like people, because the math is basically the same, right? Additive and subtractive, all the math is the same to a certain extent. So, yeah, I generally teach subtractive, but at work, I'm mostly doing mostly what you do, which is where you get the passes, do a divide, like to work out the difference between you've played around with your material attributes and then kind of multiply that or whatever it is with the light groups and things like that. So yeah, I like to do that because the amount of times you'll get a note, right? Which is where you played around with light groups from the subtractive method. and then you've got to change like the spec on something, and then you're trying to hack it with a light group with a Luma key, and it's just never good. It's like, why the hell did I end up here? So I think there's no downside to doing this big setup. So that's what, we'd like to do that personally. That's what my
Yeah. Do you guys have any opinions about that? G or
for me, I think an additive build is always good in terms of if I know that this is something I'm going to dive deep in. But sometimes you have like a bespoke layer, like somebody rendered the ear separately, or somebody rendered like this prop or a box, and I know I'm probably not going to tweak that a whole lot. There's no point in like setting up a whole additive build for it, and that's when I'll use the subtractive method.
Yeah.
So in short, detailed additive build, not that much tweaking, subtractive build.
Also, one thing that can bust you up with the big template is if the lighting's kind of like still working up, and if they add a light, now you're like, oh, fuck, now I've got to like shuffle out this light and build it into the template that I've just made. Like it can get a bit messy where you don't really have that with the subtractive method so much. Again, that's not necessarily a weakness, but it's just like, oh man, it is a bit annoying to be on the ball. How about you, Adrian? Like, how do you guys do it at Orca?
So, I mean, mostly when we're in a project, you get templates and you get to create templates, and they're mostly additive. I have two main reasons for that. Number one is I always teach to always comp in a way that you can be asked to change anything, and you will never know what anything means. So that means you can be asked to change anything on any single part of your comp that you do not expect, and an additive setup always like sets you up for potentially faster changes anywhere on the script. Probably a bigger reason is efficiency, as an additive setup is all in parallel. So you're not, you don't have to process all the changes in order to do a new change. So each little branch is happening on its own universe. That's something that really makes the comp script faster, I guess. But I mean, both are the same as, in terms of math.
So what I really like about it, and I keep trying to tell people this, but it's basically, if you have to do one or two changes, of course, if you do like the smaller thing, that's the better way, because it's like less intimidating or less processing intense. But for me, it's like, okay, I have to do one or two things, and then I get a note, and I do more things, and then I get more notes, and then the client gives notes. So in the end, you end up with a big mess. And the order of it, like the order that you're going, is just number one, whatever you're thinking about at the time. So like, oh, I need to adjust the spec, so now I do the spec. Or number two, whatever the note that you're given. So your order is just random. Like, it's just like, okay, I just did notes in the order that I was given. So if everyone's doing that separately, nobody's thinking the same way, and everyone's getting different notes, every single setup is going to be a unique snowflake. And so when you go into Josh's setup or Adrian's setup, you have to think about, okay, what were they doing? Why did they do this here? Like, what order were they going in? And it gets so confusing if you're ever passing a script to somebody else, because everyone's doing their own unique thing, and of course they are, because like their notes are different. So in an additive setup, you know where to go. It's like, oh, here's where they adjusted their specs. Here's where they adjusted this light group. Okay, cool. So there's no confusion, and there's no like guessing. So then you can go straight to the point. So I could open up Adrian's script, and I could go straight to the position where he was adjusting this and that, and I'm like, okay, cool. I can just ignore those changes or change those things, and then I'm done. And in the subtractive thing, it's like you would need to go through the whole thing to even understand like where everything is, and if you can even make the change, because then things are under that, and like it's just very confusing to me.
A big one is also it forces you to understand the render and what it contains, and then you get to see what it's made of, and like just by having that setup, and you are forced to understanding the render if something breaks. So
like seeing your ingredients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, and then because you've generally got like the from right at the end, so it's adding all the stuff together without doing any changes, and then you from it from the beauty, and then that difference is like, okay, why is there a difference? Are we missing something in our AVs and things?
Then
you wouldn't ever realize.
Look at this.
Exactly, and you wouldn't ever realize that in the subtractive method, right? You're kind of just doing your thing, and you never know that all the passes don't equal the beauty, which is never a good situation, I guess.
I mean, it can be really good too if you're catching like light groups or something that you know that you should have, and like if the VFX soup says, hey, can we add a light from the left? And you're like, okay, let me check. And you can just quickly like 1, 2, 3. Okay, no, I don't have one. And then you can go straight to the lighter and be like, yeah, I'm missing that. But with subtractive, you need to make a layer contact sheet, and it's like not as obvious how you would immediately see that.
I mean, at ILM, we had the AOV grade node, right? Which was basically the subtractive all in one. Do you prefer subtractive, or do you generally do the? I guess we did that ILM because the CG was generally pretty good, right? But you could kind of work how you wanted. But
I think another one is maybe they like to build like certain, like they know they're like group 3. When I say they, I mean the lighters. They know that like group 3 is going to need to be boosted across the board, or that's something that has like a flicker with a curve intensity from the plate. What do I prefer is, again, like I only do subtractive on things that I know I'm not going to tweak much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about doing subtractive on some CG in a shot and additive on other, or do you?
I never do subtractive because I know that, like, I think Adrian was mentioning it, like, I'd rather just have the template there and then not need it.
Yeah.
So the template's just there and I just don't need it, and then it doesn't hurt me. So I pre-render the stuff anyway, so it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't make
and also you never know, right? Your notes going in. Like, yes, it might be a small change to begin with, then you're fuck, like they've given me all these notes now.
The bad part would be if you start going subtractive and then you realize that, oh, my notes are starting to get intense. But the moment of like, you might have gone too far into it, and then there's no way to transfer it over to an additive setup, or like it would
you
be
could
very
make
difficult.
a Python script for that pretty easily, though, man.
Yeah.
I reckon you can make a Python script pretty, like, subtractive to additive.
I think.
What about a situation that you know it's going to be a complicated shot, and you just keep getting layers added as the shot progresses? Like, say you have an explosion or a planet or something.
That's a very good point. I don't ever use...
Because, like, are you just going to keep copy and pasting this big additive skeleton, and then your script is enormous?
Yeah, I do that.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. I don't ever use this template for effects, because effects generally, we do a lot of magic effects. You can't predict what they're gonna... It's mostly like IDs and stuff. So like, I prefer to only build a self-contained template. It's still additive, but I build my own template for whatever the effect is going to be, because 90% of the layers are completely useless and you're only using like ID3 or something. So like, I don't want to deal with all the other stuff. I'd rather just like at the very beginning, pull out all the stuff that I know is going to be useful. So it's like 5 passes. And then I just make a template with the 5. So it's usually just like, 2 light groups and like a fire layer and then an ID. And so that's it. So I don't want to deal with all the others, because they render all this other stuff. It's usually black or nothing there. So it's like, okay, I don't need all that stuff. So I don't usually put stuff from effects into a template, but it's still additive.
So you shuffle out everything you need, then add Expo Glow to it, did you say, Tony? And then you're done with the effects.
Yeah, like Adrian was saying.
Just
add Expo Glow, magic.
I really need to know, like, when I get an effects, like, what am I working with? It's exactly what Adrian was saying with the ingredients thing. Like, I need to know what I'm working with. Otherwise, I'm just working on the beauty, or I don't know, or I can't answer a question, or
Yeah, no, makes sense.
Talking about explanations, you know what I also liked a lot? The gizmo that you made for explaining stuff. That was pretty neat as well. Like,
if you guys don't know what he's talking about, I had a moment where I was changing numbers, and you could see the interactive changes of like the flow chart. So I was trying to explain what happens if you darken both setups and then it ends up negative. So why you're getting negative values. And Adrian, my first version was just a bunch of math. It's just a bunch of math written out that I was like a bunch of slides. And I was like, no, nobody's going to want to see this. And so I think I thought about, let me just make that images. So I was like a bunch of slides with just images. And while I was making it, I was like, oh, well, I'm already making it in Nuke. I can just, why just render out like a bunch of pre-rendered images? I can just do it in Nuke and then like change the numbers real time. So that was the origin of that one.
Yeah, the design part of it, man, it was very, very polished.
Thank you.
The tutorial just cuts to Tony. Just cuts to Tony in front of a chalkboard with a big equation.
Something that I wanted to touch on was your question before, which is like, how did it prepare you or something? Like, making all those other videos along the way, like, prepared me to know like how to, like, you have your own style and your own way to explain things and your own like, okay, this is how I make like infographics or whatever. And so all of those previous things really helped, I think, to make that final thing. And I don't think I would have been able to do it as well if I had just done it like, 4 years ago. Just, oh, here you go. Here's something. It would have been like pretty amateur.
That's a very big thing about sharing stuff, that some people are scared of losing like their magic secret or something. And it's like whenever you share something, like the most important part is what that thing that you built changed on yourself, making you more prepared for whatever you do next. So
yeah, I mean, I was mentioning to you guys before, like I think I've never known something to be as much of an industry secret as that one thing, as that one topic, because it's like either people didn't know about it or they did know about it and they just like never talked about it. It was weird. It's weird. It's like one of those like strange subjects that like you meet somebody that knows about it and then they're like, oh yeah, but I wouldn't tell anybody about it. Like, or they.
Yeah, but that's how all knowledge is, man. Like I always tell people, like the DAS grain node. Like I don't know why we weren't using something like that when I started in the industry. You could have, but just no one thought of doing it. If that makes sense, like it's cool because knowledge goes around as people move companies, and I mean that is why I think a lot of us started teaching and sharing our stuff, right? Because all the knowledge kind of stays at the bigger companies because people are generally just moving around between the same companies. So you get this weird divide between those people who are at the bigger studios and those who are kind of outside who never know that stuff exists, basically. So, I remember being at Blue Bolt and there was a guy from CineSite who was telling me about this, and then we were like backwards engineering it, basically, like trying to figure it out. So it's, it's cool. It's cool you released it, man. It's super cool.
But even between the big companies, then you guys feel like each company has like a huge expertise in some areas, but they are super lacking on something else. Like I was pretty surprised, like even like with all the movement of people in between companies, but still, I guess maybe the supervisors don't move as much, or I don't know what caused that, but like MPC, they were so good at like keying and stuff like that, and like each company had like their own secret part of compositing, and they were severely lacking on others. I don't know.
NPC was just hacking the shit out of things. I remember still the craziest thing at NPC was on Jungle Book, there was a stereo shot and it was rendered native stereo and we didn't have another eye. So we had like the hero eye CG render, but the other eye wasn't rendered. So the comp suit basically did a deep to points and then just rendered that with the camera. And that was the other eye. And it's like, holy shit, man. Like this is some hacky crap. And it's like, oh man, I wouldn't have thought of that. So it's, NPC was good. Rock and roll comp.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know, man. It's that's crazy. I mean, it's been kind of interesting to see where people end up, right? Like, I guess shows were going on while NPC were doing things, so those shows have gone somewhere. I know ILP were potentially going to pick up some. I don't know whether we are, but yeah.
Yeah, I think quite a few studios have picked up some projects that they were working on as well. I managed to touch one or two.
Oh, nice.
As well, and then some of even not just the project, so some of the people had come on board, and it was nice reuniting with some people. But at the same time, like it's like, man, my heart goes out to you because I know what it's like to suddenly have a facility just collapse under your feet. NPC going down is crazy, but what I think is also like crazy, maybe on an even bigger scale, is Technicolor, which owned NPC. I mean, we're talking about a company that's been around since The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
They essentially are the company that brought color into film.
Yeah.
And in 2025, we all just watched it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there must be lessons in there to learn of just like how to not to run a company, or how, I don't know. I don't know what the lesson is. It's like, no matter how big you are, it's still possible for you to make a series of mistakes.
I mean, I think the lesson is complacency, right? Like, the newer people are generally the hungriest, if that makes sense. Like, you look at metaphysics, look at like a company like Metaphysic, right? Which opened in the UK, had they're a new company. Why are they the ones that are pushing AI to the max, right? V's like a company like an established company, basically.
Did they get?
Yeah, they got bought by DNEG.
DNEG.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Redefine or something, right?
But the crazy thing is, right, it's complacency, and the winners have no necessarily any impetus to actually kind of change, right? They want to keep the status quo in the current state because they're winning that game. So I find it very interesting that you've got these new people who are kind of like more incentivized to be taking on these AI and other kind of tools, basically. Adrian looks like he's got something to say.
No, just from like the CTO developer's point of view, I guess the more you build on top of something, the more difficult it is to change it. So
Yeah, exactly.
they have so much inertia and so many things that they cannot change. So
Yeah.
I mean, they can't
Steering shit.
update Maya, right? It was like, I remember being at NPC, and it's probably the same for all studios. Like, if it was like Maya 2012, because all the people that made their tools have left now, and everyone kind of understands everything. And it's like, fuck, like, we cannot update anything. It's,
just look at the 3D system of Nuke. It's like, yeah.
It's hard to pivot.
I was gonna go there.
Yeah. Speaking of that, there was a talk. So I went to FMX as well. Since the last time we talked, and there was a.
Did you wear the T-shirt, Tony? Did you?
I did. I wore this one day. I wore it.
Nice.
I wore
The
it.
tax expensible T-shirt.
You know what's funny is that some of our numbers kind of went up that week that I wore this T-shirt at FMX, and I just think to myself, like, maybe people saw it and they were like, "Oh, what the heck is that?" And they just started googling around. Like, but anyways, at FMX there was
Circle logo with
exactly. Nomads. What is that? I like to think that I did some marketing there. No, so at FMX there was I think it was a history of Nuke, and it was one of the guys who like came up with Nuke back in the day at Digital Domain 1.0 or whatever it was called back then, and he like was explaining like how they made Nuke and why certain decisions were made. And it was so fascinating for me, like as somebody like at Trickster, we were building our own tools, like artists building tools, like with, shitty Python abilities, just like making stuff. And this guy was kind of saying the same kind of thing, which is like, we just needed this thing. So we started adding this, and the 3D system sucked. So we started making a 3D system. And it was made by artists, only intended to be used at Digital Domain. And then they realized like, oh, this is a pretty cool tool, and there's a vacuum, so let's try to sell it. And so they tried to sell it as like DD tools, or I forget the exact name of it, but they tried to sell it as DD. But of course, if you're in a competitive industry, why would you want to buy your competitor's tool? Because you're probably going to get like malware or something like that. So they teamed up with the Foundry, which was really small at the time. So they gave it to the Foundry so that they could like repackage it and then market it as like a third party, like independent thing, which would be much more likely to sell. So that's what they did. So that's kind of like the origin of Nuke. It was really fascinating. I thought it was really cool. He was showing us like node graphs from Titanic.
Were they left to right, or did they always work down? Because I think the software they'd come from, right, was like Shake, which is
he said it was more flame based.
That's right.
He said it was more flame based. But no, so it was the same as what you would expect. It was a little bit more like going right. I guess in Flame they go right a little bit more, but you could see that it was still like a Nuke node graph, for example. But this was like back in the like he showed us the node graph before there was more than 4 channels. So he was showing us like that they had multiple streams next to each other because they ran out of channels and they still needed to bring a mask or something. So they had to like make a parallel like node graph line. And he was like, yeah, that was the moment where we realized we needed more than 4 channels. So they just invented the 1024.
I think that's when we started seeing like the B stream come into play. It's when we started getting like into 32-bit linear and stuff and getting more and more channels.
Yeah.
Because then, if you only have like 3 or 4 channels, you don't really care as much how you manage them, how you're piping them through here.
Yeah, you're right. Because you don't need to carry anything with you. You're just kind of doing stuff independently of each other.
Exactly.
So no, when I started NPC, we were, because to kind of like keep things super clear and what we were doing, we would run an alpha channel down the side of our main comp, which was our grain alpha basically. And then we'd use that at the bottom. And obviously you can make custom mats and things and have those, but they preferred having it super clear. So we'd be merging over the alpha there, which is kind of similar, I guess, in regards to that stuff.
I can imagine the conversation with the channels like, oh, 4 channels are not enough. Let's make as many channels as anyone will ever need. Let's go 1024. And now everyone's like, man, give us more channels, please.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever raised the limit. Actually, I was mentioning in my video because I don't know. I think they did raise the limit, but it's still 1024 in my mind. It's still like the maximum amount of channels that you can bring into Nuke, which probably should be enough unless you're splitting out your like groups into mature AOVs.
Also, the name stuff was funny, right? The competition was like Flame and Inferno, so it's like, what can possibly be more dangerous than a flame? Okay, let's do a Nuke.
Yeah, it's
And
not
Nuke.
very not very complicated, the naming of it. He's like, okay, we got smoke and flame and inferno. Let's just do a nuke because nothing's better
Combustion,
than a nuke.
too, right?
Combustion, yeah. So they basically just said, well, you can't beat a nuke, so we're nuke.
That's true. But that shit has put us all on the NSA watch list with our Google search.
Yeah,
So that's
that was
it.
the joke. Yeah, he didn't realize the implication of it at the time.
How was
that's-
FMX? Like,
That's the same guy that's revamping the CG system in the Foundry now. So they hired
Oh, wow.
the original guy to come back. One of them, like there was like 3 people that were making it in the beginning, but they hired one of them, the guy who made the first 3D system, to come and like redesign the new 3D system. So he's actually, I would say, back at the Foundry, but he was never at the Foundry. He was like literally like a compositing artist at Digital Domain.
I was wondering like what people like that were up to. Like, did they just like scope him out in the middle of a log cabin in the woods or something?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he
Doing
sounded more.
pottery.
Yeah, they pulled him out of like exactly, like a retirement log cabin. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like when he goes and he becomes a cobbler or something, and then they pull him back up for the next Scorsese film. Yeah.
Or it's like when they hunt down Thanos.
Exactly. We need a new 3D system. All right, do it myself.
Yeah, I heard a very big reason for him coming back was the multi-shot workflow, actually.
No, he hated it so much he came back to destroy it. Was that?
I saw a very interesting video the other day from Goodbye Kansas about the multi-shot workflow and how they have everything set up into like they split all the sequences into little groups of shots and stuff, and they have a way to have the main stuff that they want to be global and then stuff that's shot specific, and they were like setting it. It was like a video from the Foundry that they teamed up with. It was pretty cool, actually.
I'm still unsure about this, man. This sounds like such a good thing in principle, and then you get into production, you're like, oh man, I regret doing it. It's like when you start off with the subtractive method, right? Going full circle, and then you're like, why did I do this? I should have just set up the big additive template.
I completely agree with you. I think I'm very skeptical about that kind of stuff because of the mess that it can create down the line. But for like full CG films or like feature films or something, I can imagine.
Or smaller productions. I think small productions like ads, fuck yeah, like let's do it because you've got 8 different beer bottle labels that you've got to throw on the thing. That makes a whole load of sense. But yeah, I wouldn't be using multi-shot on Dr. Doom.
Do you think, a completely different topic, but do you think the world of commercials is going to be the first one that gets overtaken by AI because they don't have those limitations of like copyright? And I know that some of them are being made already by AI, some of the commercials. And I was just imagining if I was at a commercial house, like how much pressure would I be getting from like management? Like, hey, just do it with AI, just do it with like this. And so I don't know. Is that going to be the first one to implement that?
Well, what's the easiest thing to make with AI with a prompt right now? Is it something that's short format with quick cuts?
It depends on who you listen to on LinkedIn. Apparently, anything in the world.
Yeah, it depends who's trying to up their stock share price. But no, it is just short stuff because then it shortens the times of hallucinations. But you can do stuff like first frame, last frame. So you do like you could generate a video, then another one, and then you can first frame, last frame them, and then you can kind of tie them together and stuff like this. But yeah, I'd say short, quick cuts are the way to go.
Yeah,
So
and
then
they are way more agile, like the VFX companies that do commercials, and I guess the requisites for HDR, 4K are not as severe or as yeah.
I mean, the thing I was thinking about, I mean, number one, like, I went to an event the other day and GBK were there, and they're doing some really, oh no, not GBK, ETC, sorry, Electric Theatre Collective, and they're doing some amazing stuff. Like, they're like quite high up in the league tables now for advertising, and they're fully embracing that stuff. The other thing to think about is, I think top end everything will be less whacked, if that makes sense. Like high end ads, like the super high end ones, like you maybe wouldn't want to use AI for that, but if it's a YouTube video or a TikTok commercial, and the way I thought about it is, if you think of like self-service machines in restaurants, right? Like you don't go to a Michelin star restaurant and they're like, right, yeah, put your order in at the front with this like LED screen, like touch panel, right? But McDonald's, that's totally like been taken, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
a
wonder
great
if it's
point.
like the experience of like, okay, yeah, like in McDonald's, I don't need someone fucking waiting me to the table. And because you don't care, you just want a burger. Whereas in the big restaurant, maybe you want to be able to customize it and this kind of thing.
I think that's a great point. I mean, another one parallel is like, I guess when it comes like instruments or something like that, you don't want to know that your guitar was like, sculpted and made by like some machine. You want to make sure like that thing is handmade by some like expert at their craft or whatever.
Yeah, and not even instruments, let's say music. So in the 70s, I guess everyone thought the drums were about to be extinct, because now we had like those synthesizers that were just a beatbox machine. And that never happened. Like, people want to see a drummer like be human and have errors and like, yeah. So
yeah, you're right. Because technically the keyboard can make a similar sound, but that never like overtook the drum set.
Many bands started using just a constant rhythm with the drum, like a snare and kick, and that's it, and didn't go too far.
Yeah,
I think that is the thing. Like a lot of I think when you're forward projecting stuff, it's very easy to logically get to a position, but people aren't logical. Like that's the thing, and it's all this like illogical stuff. Like, why do people buy vinyl, right? Like, just get a Spotify, right? Like membership. Or why do people go to football matches? You could just get a better view on a TV at home. It'd be more comfortable. So it's like there's all these things that don't really make any sense if you think of them in the same logical way that people are thinking of. Now, again, I'm biased, and so is the person who also owns the AI company. They're going to tell you their thing's going to take over, and then we're going to tell you that, look, okay, it's not going to take over. But I think, again, with everything, it's kind of this like grey area tool, right? I think previews will get whacked a bit, personally, for that stuff.
I mean, that being said, just back to the caveat you originally made, is like, we are talking about like the top end.
Yeah, that's true.
People aren't going to go to a Michelin star restaurant to fill their hunger every single night. In the same way that people probably aren't going to hire ILM or Weta every single time they have a project.
Yeah, so budgets are getting smaller, I think, right? Like, budgets are getting smaller. They're not investing as much into films anymore. Like, I think they need to start cutting corners. It might not be a film,
but the corner they cut.
Sure.
Like, look at Godzilla -1, right? That wasn't AI, but they did it on a super cheap, like on a way less budget. Like, they could cut corners other ways. I don't think VFX is the budget that they necessarily need to cut, if that makes sense.
I think it's one of the most expensive parts of a film. I think
it doesn't have to be if you plan it. Like, that's
if you use AI.
These projects, like,
if you use Japanese labor.
Wow, but
that was a pretty unique situation, because the director was like sitting behind the artist, which never happens. Of course, like that's like so unheard of that. Like, James Cameron's not sitting behind the nuke artist being like, "Hey, here's a note."
It's like Adrian with his builders. I mean, Adrian, how about like you, like the on-set stuff, right? Like, can you use AI for any of that to generate backgrounds that you throw on those screens, or not so much? Like, while you're on set, you could knock up backgrounds pretty quick, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, more than the present, I'm thinking about the near future, like in a few years from now. I see that. So all the, boring, like, on-set tracking, camera metadata, that's where I see lots of potential. Like, once you get like that plus matting, that's decent enough and can be modified. You can pull out many shots with the same amount of creative control, but once you do a shot, it's there's not that many creative decisions that go for the other 10 shots that are exactly the same. I just see if we are able to pull out more stuff, and we are helped by AI, of course. Like, if you could afford a Michelin star restaurant every single night, why wouldn't you do it? I don't know.
Yeah. So, like, basically, it's a bit like YouTubers, how their quality's got better, basically. So, like, the lower end just gets better.
Yeah,
basically, like the divide between the top and bottom.
So you get the McDonald's now with a LED screen, and you have all of that stuff that really raises the quality, but then all the proper stuff remains like being proper, and people want to see it because it's human, and it's clearly different at the moment. Let's see how it evolves, but...
The other thing as well with this is, so a student of mine who I was training, he had an interview for the Jedi Academy last week for ILM London. And believe it or not, the role that he was going for in the internship, the apprenticeship, was for face swapping. Believe it or not. So he's a comper. And that's a role that didn't exist, right? I was like, holy shit, like, okay, they're getting apprentices for that. So
I didn't know that was a specific role.
Precisely. So there's these new roles now which are coming about, right? So, and I think you're going to slowly see this with, the same thing with the Sphere. They're taking Wizard of Oz at the moment and going to nudge it so that they can watch it on the Sphere. So how could you design the edges, right? I mean, in painting in AI sounds like a pretty fucking great way to do that, at least coming up with ideas. So I think you're going to start seeing all these kind of like interesting new roles come about that maybe are taking what we know and then kind of adapting them to new, like ABBA, for instance, right? Like ILM, there's a bunch of compers who are now doing this like ABBA kind of like stage show and things like that, and they're compositors, so they're kind of changing with the technology in regards to stuff. You're going to see this.
I thought you meant the creature from Avatar for a second.
Opa.
No.
Since you mentioned ILM London, if I could just take a moment and just say rest in peace to an awesome compositing supervisor that I had on Star Wars: The Last Jedi. His name is Dan Snape. So it was great working with you, sir, and rest in peace.
He's a good guy. I remember you working on that show, and I remember you having a spoiler behind me, and I was like, I'm not even working on the fucking show, but like I know what's going to happen in this fucking film, because you were literally on it behind me. I think when I was on Ready Player One or something, or it was one of the, I can't remember the show now, and yeah, I remember you had some juicy shots as always, and yeah, you had some good spoilers on your screen. It was a crazy.
Sorry, bro.
I mean, actually, a cool story about ILM, right? Do you remember how the phones would ring down the line because people would be trying to kind of like get information out of us? So they pretend to be a soup and be like, "Oh, we need this character for this thing," and then you'd go, "Oh no, like we don't have that character." Do you not remember? Like they would go through like the bins and stuff.
Like on the work phone?
Yeah. You'd see.
No,
so
what?
Oh, dude. So you'd have like, maybe this was...
I think you opened up a website, dog.
No. What would happen is the phone would ring on one... So they'd like find out the extension of the phones, let's say. And then you'd see it, right, this one rings, no one picks up. And then the next one would ring, then the next one would ring, and the next one would ring. And they were trying to get the juicy secrets. Do you not remember hearing about
They were
this?
like Hollywood Reporter trying to like fucking call into ILM and get
They would go
secrets.
through bins and shit.
So
like,
funny.
honestly, like you got these like crazy Star Wars fans that would go through bins and all sorts of this stuff.
So,
Yeah.
I'm the VFX soup, and I would like to know what was the ending of the movie.
Hey, it's me, Mr. George Lucas, eh? Where's my Jar Jar Binks texture,
Yeah. To any new starters in the industry, we used to have physical phones on our desk where we would be called into review. So your phone on your desk, like a wired phone, you'd pick it up and be like, "Oh, okay, I need to go to the review," and then you'd walk your shit over to some cinema room or something.
I wonder if Zoic Studios still does that.
I wonder if they still exist. I don't know.
No, they do. Yeah. Like we're getting renders from them on a project.
Oh yeah,
one.
yeah. I remember they had a sick office. They had this door from the Firefly series. So they had like this sci-fi door that you used to like
I used
open
to
up.
sit next to it.
Yeah, it's so super cool. It was like this big metal like fucking door that you slide across,
Yeah.
and that was really.
But it was the actual door from Firefly, from what I remember.
Yeah, because they
It wasn't
they were
like a
the
copy.
they were the VFX company that did the VFX for Firefly.
That's what you need
good
for your
show.
apartment, man. You need the Firefly doors. That's what you need for your apartment.
Yeah,
No-
like what's taking so long?
Adrian, design.
no Wi-Fi can get through the door, but it'll be worth it for the aesthetics.
Like, it's perfect. You don't have doors. You need a door.
Yeah, there's still a chance.
Done.
I knew I had to wait for something special.
Where did you guys work at Zoic? Like, whereabouts were they in the States?
That was one of the first companies I remember working at in Los Angeles. I had an internship
Overseas.
there. I was a Zintern. Zoic
That's
intern.
what they called you?
Yeah, that's what we called ourselves. They had us
Did you
like
pay to work there?
I did not pay to work there, and they didn't pay me either. But we used to run tapes across LA. So back in the day, it would be too long to transfer like hundreds of gigabytes. So they would just give us a hard drive, and we'd like drive across Los Angeles because it was faster to drive across LA than it was to like transfer the shit on online.
Jesus.
So
Tony,
we
you
used to
said
go
they
to-
cling filmed USB sticks around your body, right? Like Wolf of Wall Street, and then you think that
Exactly. I remember I had
It's-
I had a really shitty car at the time, and my brakes went out as I was delivering a tape, and like I made it, thank God, but like I had to just leave my car in some parking lot and like get a taxi back or something, and I was like, yeah, my car broke down, which you needed a car to get the internship, so they were like, oh, what the fuck, we hired you to run tapes across LA. And they're like, shit, okay, just give the guy some comp work or something. So I remember like I got comp work because my car like broke down and I couldn't deliver tapes anymore. So they just stuck me in a room with some comp. That was like my first experience doing any comp.
Man, that's crazy, man. I remember hearing a similar story, by the way, to what you were saying, which like taking hard drives and things. I can't remember what film it was on NPC, and they need to get files to Vancouver over the weekend, and it's going to take too long. So they were literally like, we will pay someone to get on a flight with a bunch of hard drives,
Oh my God.
like in a suitcase,
That's
and then you
wild.
go straight there, and then you literally come straight back. And it was like, the danger money base on it. It was like, right, what's that worth?
That does sound
thing
like drug running.
Good thing I didn't lose the luggage, since that happened sometime.
Or even worse is my dad used to work for a company, and the X-ray machines would wipe stuff as well when it was going for X-ray, and all sorts of things like that. Yeah, so
I'd be so nervous.
You just erased Captain America.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I remember one time I went. They sent me to some like house in the middle of Beverly Hills, and it was such a nice house. And there was this like VFX power couple there. It was like a producer and possibly a guy that was making assets. I was there to collect an asset, like a spaceship or something. And I was sitting in this house, and they had all these movie posters everywhere. And I was like, where the fuck am I? It was just somebody's living room. They're like, yeah, you want some tea, some coffee, or whatever? I was like, what the hell? And yeah, it was just like this power couple that would just make assets. Like, he was the guy that made fucking anything, and they would just pay him freelance. For me, it was like really cool when I was a kid. Like, oh man, like this is possible to do this.
That is one thing I kind of miss about working and living in Los Angeles, is randomly just meeting people or randomly like ending up in the Hollywood Hills or something. However, fate decided to bring you to that location. Do you remember the time you and I we did a 2D painting, digital painting class, and one of the people in the class was the guy that designed all the vehicles in Avatar.
No, I don't remember that.
Avatar.
I don't remember that was somebody.
He designed the, you know that like how they have a very unique kind of helicopter?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember asking him, like, what the fuck are you doing in a class if you have done this? And he's just like, like you can never get too good.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that was really cool. That was wasn't it Feng Zhu or something? Who teaching us? It was
It wasn't Feng Zhu. It was
I remember now.
I don't remember his name.
I don't remember either, but he was pretty hot. But anyways, yeah, G and I signed up for like a matte painting class, and we went there. And I remember your words, G, because but back like I used to really look up to G a lot. I don't anymore, but I'm just kidding. No, I used to really because you were like a year ahead of me in school and also in your career. Like you got me my job at Luma, and I used to like consider you like way more advanced in matte painting skills and everything. And I remember we took a class together, and I was feeling pretty worthless. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be as good as you. And you were like, hey, the fact that you're taking this class with me means that you're already as good as me. And you were kind of like gassing me up a bit. I really appreciated that you said that. Like that, I guess you just meant like your thirst for knowledge is already enough, like, because you're going to go far with that and not just be sitting around not doing that, So I really appreciate that.
It's actually true. You are very good at this. Like when I was at DNEG, you were very similar. Like you were way better. I mean, you still are a better comp than me, but like I was kind of it's the first time I'd moved from NPC, and like that was my first role. And the same thing, like you were a higher up comp than me, but you were like, oh yeah, like helping out and being chill, no ego. It's yeah, you are very good at that, and I think that's something that I don't know, maybe comes naturally. And like I don't think you've ever been made a mentor or anything, but yeah, you're very good at kind of bringing young talent up, basically.
Yeah.
Coming from two people who have inspired like I don't know how many people, that means a lot.
Yeah, but it's different because when you're in a work environment, there is like I think it's easier to do this online, whereas in a work environment, there's a bit more like egos and dick measuring and all this crap, basically. So I think, and it's sometimes easy to get caught up in that if you're a certain personality type, right? So like having someone like yourself that is very good and is kicking out awesome shots and is not like that, if that makes sense. It just kind of, I think it shows that like, look, you don't have to be this like douchebag to be good at your job, if that makes sense, and be this like, oh, I'm better than everyone. So yeah, man, it was good. Similar story to you, Tony.
Oh, well, I learned from G, so that's it. But Adrian too. Adrian, you're really approachable too. I mean, you were like ready to share anything that you discovered like on the spot. It was funny. Like you would get excited and you're like, check this out. I redesigned Nuke. Go check it out.
I mean, I remember being at NPC and being a bit jealous of Adrian, actually. So, like, I always remember this. So, like, Adrian, you joined NPC, right, on The Martian. And I remember the shot you had was a solar panel slowly tilting up, and you added a little glint to it. And, like, I think there weren't many juniors. I was one of the juniors, and you were maybe one of the other ones. And, like, the VFX super, like, Lev, who was the comp super, like, loved that shot. And I was like, fuck, like, this guy's, like, treading on my toe. And, like, I mean, we were both pretty chill, but it was, like, gave me some good pushing, basically, to, up my game.
Yeah, I remember I used an exponential glow, and I was, oh, you used an exponential glow.
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah. But I think that's a sign of someone that you want to work with, right? I mean, it's like the person that's helping you out and the ego set aside. I remember one of my first times at Trickster, I got like a really difficult shot that I just couldn't figure it out. And it was one of those like magic, I don't know, hexagon bullshit and stuff. And I was sitting there at lunch, and like back when we used to have lunch with each other, and I was sitting there like with like a ghost face, I was just sitting there like thinking in my head, like, how am I going to do this? It's due tomorrow. Like, what am I going to do? And there was a comper next to me, Helga Steng, and he was such a good comper. He was kind of an intimidating guy. Shout out to Helga if he's out there, but he kind of looks like a Viking. He's got this like really blonde beard that like goes down. But he's kind of an intimidating guy. He's like really tall, and he's very smart. But he saw that I was like, struggling, and he was like, "Why? What's on your mind?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just don't know how I'm going to do this shot and stuff." He's like, I described it to him. He's, "Can I help you out? Let me give it a shot." And I was like, "Yeah, please." And he went back, and he just like, it was super collaborative, and we were both working together, and it was one of the greatest memories of just like this guy that seemed really intimidating. He was really smart, but he was super humble, and his ego was totally off to the side, and we just came together, and he did that like magical part of what we were doing, and I continued with the rest of the shot, and we just came together and like worked really well. It was really cool, and I appreciate that people are like that in the industry.
And he was a singer of a pretty famous death metal band, actually.
He was the lead singer of a death metal band. Yes, to give you some context. He's still.
Has anyone heard of the band Metallica or anyone?
Yeah, Helga's awesome.
Yeah. That's sick, man.
Speaking of like people that don't have to be a dick to be good at their job, I think the most extreme example I've seen of that is on Ready Player One. I had the pleasure and the honor to work with Steven Spielberg. And, there's in Hollywood, there's so many egos from production to actor, to artist, to, director. And we hear a lot about various directors, not to call any in particular out, but a lot of them are assholes, and dealing with them or getting their feedback or just hearing them talk, there's just like there can be a general vibe of like cockiness or whatever. Spielberg was the most childish in a good way.
Yeah.
Giddy, excitable, and excited client I've ever worked with. Anytime you would show him a shot, he'd be like, "Ooh, what does this look like? What? Oh, this is great. But what happens if we then make this blue and then that green? Wouldn't that be cool?" And then like, even if you showed it to him and he didn't like it, he'd be like, "You know what? Sorry, I fucked up. The other one looks better." Da-da-da. So even like down to the wire in like the last stages of production, when he's going through shot after shot after shot, he never got irritated. He never got pissed. He never demonstrated his ego. He never flaunted that he's like a billionaire and doesn't have time to do this shit. To the point where like he'd call out artists he'd like see the name on the not timestamp, like the slate.
Yeah, like the daily, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be like, "Wow, this is awesome. That's fantastic by this person. Good job. Like, good job, ILM people."
That's cool.
I mean, Grady was like that as well. I mean, that's one of the highlights of my career was
Grady.
Yeah, I know. But one of the highlights of my career on that show was I think it was like we were basically hand painting the Akira bike Lightning frame by frame to match in Ready Player One. And I remember listening to, because obviously all the recording, you get all the sessions with the director recorded so we can listen back just in case the notes are misinterpreted. And they showed the shot I'd worked on where I'd hand painted this, and Steven Spielberg was like, "This is cool." And then Grady, it was like, "Oh yeah, and actually look, we hand painted this. It matched the original Akira film." And exactly as you said, it's like this childlike, "Whoa, that's amazing," and all this kind of stuff. It was this childlike, just like, "Fuck yeah, that's cool." And he was watching it as if he was a viewer rather than some sort of commercial entity, basically. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, man, it was sick. I mean, actually, with the Gundam shot that you worked on, G. Because I think we may have spoken about this before, I think, but like who was it who came up with the pose, if that makes sense? Because originally that pose wasn't in the film, right? And the Gundam does a certain pose, and someone spotted it. I think it's one of the composites, maybe.
Brad Floyd.
That was it. He's now at Weta, I think.
Yeah, he was going through like out YouTube video after YouTube video, various Gundam poses, and then he had me doing the same thing. And I remember being so excited at the time because it's like, I'm getting paid to watch anime.
Exactly.
But yeah, I feel like that comes down to Brad Floyd.
Because that's tricky as well. Like, this is, I think, the thing. Like, we're compers, and that's an anim note, right? And all sorts of notes, if that makes sense. That's not just in our land, but I think the best companies are the ones who can make. How was that conversation afterwards? How did you then take that idea back? Did you tell Grady, or what was how did that go?
It was, I don't want to misquote, but I believe it was taken. I believe it was consulted through, and then got to Grady, and then they were like, "Yeah, let's try it."
Yeah.
The funny thing is, it wasn't until I moved to Japan and was souping and working with Japanese artists, somebody pointed out something that I always knew, because I was also digging into reference. The pose he does after he transforms is the pose from a different Gundam series. So the specific Gundam model we had is like the original RX something, I forget. Sorry, Gomennasai. But he does a certain kind of pose. We took the pose from a different series because it was more. It just looked
made a better
cooler.
silhouette or whatever.
It made a better silhouette, exactly.
Gotcha.
Secret.
No, that's sick.
But no, what I was saying is like somebody called it out to me, and they were like, this is like the pose from Gundam da-da-da, right? And I was like, all right, you got me, fucker.
Like, okay, nerd. Darth Maul grew up on Astapor.
But that is always the crazy thing, though. I think a lot of people, they think, oh, when you work on a film, you get given this, I don't know, maybe like a booklet, right? Of like, here's all the lore behind this thing, whatever it might be. But it isn't. It's like, we've got to fucking figure this shit out. And it's kind of up to you, if that makes sense. Like, how down in the weeds you want to get.
I mean, it all depends. I mean, somebody somewhere probably knows, like, the grander scheme of the stuff. But like, as you could be on a project for like a month and you have no idea, like you're just getting notes like, okay, I'll just do this and that. So like, you're not as invested on every film as maybe you should be, or that you even can be, I think. But like, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? If you have enough time and you're going to be on a show, do you do like research, on the show? Let's say you, are going to, you're going to work on Last of Us.
Shang-Chi could be one, right? Like Shang-Chi maybe.
Or Shang-Chi, or just a show with a lot of history, right? Like say you've never watched a Harry Potter, but now you're going to work on some Harry Potter film. Would you just binge watch all of the films? Would you do any research about it? Or like, how do you guys kind of go about that? Do you feel the need to get into it?
In my soup days, for sure. Especially because, like, I don't know, if you have to run through bids and stuff, it's good to know like how complex things could potentially be. If it's something, but as an artist, like if it's something that I potentially am passionate about, sure. Otherwise, nah, probably not.
Yeah, it's kind of up to you, isn't it, to get as hyped as you want to get, I guess. Sorry, Adrian, you go.
No, like in the end, we are pretty isolated, and also going back to the feedback we received. Like generally, as a vendor, you receive like an Excel sheet with 20-word descriptions for each shot, and then you get like a 1-hour call with the client supervisor that goes over each shot roughly, and then you start working, and then you start getting notes from people that actually know what things mean through months, but by that time you are already like very advanced in the shots. So that's why I guess studios also have like a very important creative component still, even though someone had something in their mind for what it was meant to look like. Sorry, one question for G. You mentioned your soup days. How did that go from going from soup to artist? I'm pretty intrigued about that.
I think I worked a lot as a soup, and I really enjoyed those days. But at times I reminisced on just being able to focus on like just my work as opposed to being in charge of the delivery of everything. That, and maybe in the beginning you have a bunch of decisions to make, and some of them are the right decisions and some of them aren't. And you can feel the effects of that later towards the end, especially in like maybe a smaller company. So that creates quite a bit of pressure. Over the past year and a half, I kind of stepped away from that. I stepped away from the company I was at in Tokyo for a while, and it was like a fork in the road there. And obviously, like the majority of like I guess the opportunities presented themselves were like supervisory roles. Because of course, like this guy is just coming off of this supervisor role. We need a soup. Can you blah, blah, blah. That was a fork in the road. And I just sat on it for a while and decided I'm going to be upfront and tell people that I'm just not looking for supervisor roles anymore. So for the past 1.5, 2 years, I've just been working as a freelance compositor, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, you happy with the decision?
I am, just because I feel like a lot of the energy I put into attempting to deliver shows, the broad picture of shows and managing artists and here and there. And I understand this is something that some people are born to do. And if that is your role, like, my hat's off and mad respect to you. For me, I find that not being in charge of all that, I can take that creative energy and channel it into other things that I'm also passionate and building passion for.
Do you feel like you act differently as a comper? Now you can empathize more with a comp soup for that. Like, is there anything, do you find you communicate more now, or like, is there anything you're doing differently than a lot of compers, given that you've kind of had that experience?
I think that's a great question, because it's something I've been thinking about lately. I think I don't want to say I'm like the ideal artist, but I loved when artists would communicate well with me. And I think a big thing is, like, some artists, when they present their shots, over-explain themselves, or maybe they'll get defensive if a soup says, can you make this a bit softer and blurrier? And then your reply is like, oh yeah, but I was thinking that this and da-da-da, and then a ba-da-da-da, and then maybe it would have looked better, but I wasn't. All of that to say, yeah, sure, I'll change it.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody who just goes, yeah, sure, I'll change it.
Yeah.
I do find this, like, because when people would do that when I was a soup, it was just kind of annoying, and you're just kind of, I mean, I want to hear your story for sure, but there's like a million shots we have to review, and I just don't, you just have, on big productions, you just don't have the time to hear.
And you got to read the room. I think you can do that at the start of a show when you're coming up with creative ideas, right? But if the shot's basically done, you just go, yeah, I can do that, no problem. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Exactly as you said, like, you need to read the room of dailies, which is like, okay, this person's got to get through 200 shots, whatever it is. Okay, just like be respectful, if that makes sense, of their time.
Yeah, would there be a reverse to that too? Because obviously we wouldn't want to say, like, just say yes and like, yeah, sure, and then you sound like you don't care. But would the reverse of that be like, you also like when you used to like when people would give a suggestion like, hey, I did the note, but also I was thinking this would look cool too, and they give like an alt version or something, and you're like, oh, sick, that's great. Like, do you know also when to, you know, give something extra or whatever?
Yeah, for sure. Occasionally, if I have like that idea in the back of my mind, I'll say it. But a lot of other times, like if I have the time, I'll just do it through action. Yeah. And then, like, here's version 11. This is, you know, what we talked about. By the way, there is a version 12 if you have time to look at it, and that makes the lightning green instead of blue. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't.
Or like a wedge or something, yeah.
That's another thing, actually, that I found, like, people who are kind of have been in the industry for a while can empathize a bit more with the VFX soup or comp lead or comp soup, whatever, is like wedges. Like, for instance, you could say, hello, I brought up the spec here. I wasn't sure whether it's quite enough, so I actually did 2 other versions, right? Because you've only got those dailies once a day. So you want to extract as much information out of those. And if it's like you daily it, oh no, can we bring up the spec a bit more? Daily it, that's like 3 days worth of stuff. But if you do 4 versions at once or 3 versions, some VFX soups don't like it because they're like, okay, like, just trust your fucking eye. Like, you should trust your eye. But some soups do like it because you can, again, like, extract information a lot more. Adrian, look like you.
Just going back to Alexei's conversation, the only important thing to remember is if someone asks you for a cow, don't give them 2 horses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. It's like finding what it is that is the variable. I don't know if that's the right term, but like the thing that, like, oh, this could look cool in many different ways, and, you know, I'm not even sure how, like, which version looks cool. Let me do a couple versions of this one small, well, not everything, but this one small part of it. just like a lightning, like how what the frequency is or something. Like, okay, let's just do a couple versions, and so that I can go down the right path, so that I don't waste a bunch of time. You know?
Yeah, I would maybe imagine it as you try to find what's the button that the soup is trying to press, and you turn that button into a lever, and then you give that a bit of leeway into that decision.
I for sure, I would say just it can get a little bit annoying if it's every little thing. Like,
Oh yeah.
There's just one note about diffusing this a bit more, and then it's like, here's 5 versions of different levels. Okay, cool. But then like the next day, it's like, I also asked you to make this blue. Now here's like 5 different shades of blue. It's every single version. Yeah.
Well, then it gets to like, you don't know what you're doing. You're just relying on me to pick the version or something. Yeah, I understand.
Exactly.
That too.
But this is where the experience comes in, right? Like, this takes experience to learn how to read the room, and these are other things that make you a better comper than just being good at Nuke, if that makes sense.
For sure.
It's a very interesting.
It's probably like this is what I guess the soup wants, this is what I would want, and here's for you to decide. On those occasions, probably.
G, do you find that your communication with production as well has improved since those days? Because obviously, like, a supervisor is dealing a lot more with production, like side by side, and the artist is a little bit more like top down. I would say, like, you're getting kind of assigned shots and stuff. It's not like collaborative as much as soup. So, do you find that communication better?
That's a fucking fantastic question, because yeah, for sure. I think at least for me as like a young artist or whatever, you kind of don't think, you tend to think production is like this
evil entity.
Your words.
Well, they're pressuring me to get the shot, and they're making me stay late.
You don't realize like this is just a person doing their job, and it's like, oh, this little bitch asking me for all these shots or whatever. Like, no, they're just doing what the VFX soup and the producer and whatever. Everybody's just trying to deliver a show, and that production person, like, they don't have a bone to pick with you.
Well, they have their own pressures and their own, like, they're trying to accomplish a job themselves, which is like deliver this on time within the budget. Basically, it's like they're on the business side of it, I guess. Yeah,
I do think a good comp lead though will be a bit of a filter for that. Personally, I'd much rather like production come to me, and then you can as a lead anyway, and then you filter that. Like, you don't really want the artist to be too stressed out, if that makes sense. I don't think it makes them kick out good work. So then, and as a lead as well, you might go, okay, look, we can't deliver that shot, but maybe we could give you this one instead, if that makes sense. And then you're making those kind of recommendations. So
I think, Josh, as well, just thinking about that, it also depends on how stretched thin you are as a lead. Like, if you're comping a shot and then you're managing a template and then you're helping artists, but it's much quicker for your producer to just walk by and ask that artist, hey, can we just get one more version? And that's you're within earshot. Then,
That's true. I think, again, like, it's okay for them to, I mean, that's more like coordinates, I guess, going over and checking in. Personally, I kind of do that a little bit at work. Like, I'm the one kind of checking in with the artist on the day, and then I'll flag it. Because again, like, as a lead, you don't want it to be a surprise of like, okay, like, why is this shot not going? So I like to kind of do that on the day of a milestone shoot. I'll check in to see if it's actually can be doable, basically. But again, every company's different, right? Like, in a bigger studio where you've got 500,000 shots, the leads can't necessarily do that. But in smaller studios, I find that I'm taking on that role a bit more, basically. The other thing about kind of like comp souping as well is it's so much more, right, than just reviewing shots to you. It's like, okay, look, this artist isn't performing. What do we do? Do we put them on those shots? How much of a chance do we give them, and all this kind of stuff? And it's growing up. How many compers do you need? When do you need them? Like, it's actually a way. When I started the intro, I thought, oh, it's just a person who sits in the cinema room and gives me notes, if that makes sense. But it just isn't that at all, in regards to those extra.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the most stress I experienced as a soup was when some artists didn't like each other.
Yeah.
And I would be the one to get called into a room by either one saying, can you please not sit me next to this artist? Da, da, da. Like,
yeah. I mean, is there something as well, like touching on that, like soup and artist thing? Like, I think when you're starting out, you kind of assume that there's a ladder and you're climbing this ladder, and like, did you have to kind of deal with that yourself, G, in the sense of like, oh, I'm stepping off to the side, like I'm going down a rung to artists, and like there's a big chance to feel like you're a failure or something like that, and to get caught in this negative kind of mentality of that. Did you have to deal with that, or did you kind of think of it in a different way? Like, no, I'm not. It's not like a matter of like, oh, I'm lesser. I'd prefer to do that. You know, I don't know if that's an argument that you had with yourself.
I think the foundation I built in the years before becoming a soup gave me the confidence to not feel unconfident when I stopped being a soup. In other words, like I felt comfortable with my credentials and my reel enough that I could step down from being a soup and still be like confident in the point I was at in my career, as opposed to like feeling like, oh, I was a soup, now I'm not a soup, so I must suck or something.
But I think, by the way, that goes back to what we were saying about how you were with us, me and Tony, when we started our career almost, because you had the confidence in yourself that you're really good, so you don't have to act in a certain way, right? Like this like macho, like, yeah, I can do everything. So it kind of goes back to that. It's just, I think that's your personality, if that makes sense, and this like lack of ego that you've got. It's like, yeah, I've proven I can do it, so yeah, who gives a crap? Like, I'll do whatever. Who cares what people think? Like, it doesn't matter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the dogs that do not bark that they know they can kill you, so they don't have a reason to.
Yeah.
Oh my god, savage.
Is it also the case like that you feel like you did a pretty good job souping, and it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I failed at that. It's just like, I tried it, I did a good job, but that's not what I want to do. So like, that's up to me. That's my decision. Like, it's not like that you got fired or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a conscious choice of like, yeah, let's try it. Okay, I did that for a bit, and I don't want to do that anymore.
And you can always go back and do Compositing again if you want, I guess, which is nice.
I think it's a bit of both. When I worked at larger companies and there were large teams of production and leads and whatever, all that kind of support, I actually found this easier. The shots were higher, but there was just more support here and there. In smaller houses, this was more difficult because back to what I was saying before about like micro decisions can have large consequences later. I was put, without getting too specific, like I was put into, earlier, Josh, you said the larger the facility, the more shots, something generic along that. There was a project I had taken on that was us being a small, medium house that was the amount of shots of a large facility. And it was, I just felt like I don't ever want to experience this again. And if, even like if I leave this company or if I leave this project, that the potential for that to happen again would just be so, like, it's just so disheartening that I didn't want to do it again.
Yeah, the stress wasn't worth it, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I hear
you.
Well, we need to finish on something fun.
Yeah.
Tony. Well, actually, it's something fun. G and me got married. There you go.
No. To each other. No.
There you go. Hey! I've got my Japanese visa.
Yeah.
That's what this whole podcast's been about. I've just been flirting with G for the last 2 years on this podcast, and finally he proposed to me. So
I thought he was gonna.
He said yes.
Yay!
I thought G was about to walk into your frame, like.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of putting creative energy into other resources, I've started my own sauce company.
Whoa.
We got barbecue and we got buffalo, baby.
Oh wow!
And you said if they enter Tony 20 into the checkout, you'd get them 10% off. Or was it 20% off G or something? What's
If
the
you type
code?
VFX Nomads into your footer, you get 1% off.
Nice. It's $50 shipping to Germany though. That's the only thing. Very good. Very exciting.
I think we've all been, especially like me finishing the video, you guys getting married, and Adrian working on his house. We've all been kind of working on some side stuff away from some VFX, which is always
you're
healthy.
at work, man, as well. Like, I think we've all been pretty slammed at work, to be honest with you. Like, that's kind of the biggest reason why we haven't done a podcast in a while. And it's looking like it's going to get busier in September, October, which is good. So,
Not a bad thing, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do one again soon.
Yes. All right, we'll leave it at there, and we'll see you guys all in the next episode. Bye.
So,